So I'm going to be joined today by Rob, Charlotte, and Bella. So Rob Shropshire is from the Presbyterian World Service and Development Organization, and he acts as an advisor for policy and planning. He's responsible for policy and planning. We've got Charlotte Cadell, who is from Equitas. She's the co-executive director of Interpares, and she shares that role with Samantha McGavin. And we have as well Bella. So Bella Lamb, who is the director of programs from the Jane Goodall Institute of Canada. I'm really pleased to be able to facilitate this discussion because building on some of the conclusions that came out of the report, the recommendations, and the actual framework itself, what is really, really more important to all of us is how this actually gets implemented in our respective organizations. And so it's fantastic to be here today and have an opportunity to hear from 3 organizations that have been quite committed organizationally, and will speak about the processes of organizational change and also be quite more forthright in the learnings that are shared. So we're going to start off with some presentations from each of them, and then we're going to open it up to questions to the group here. We really hope that this will be an opportunity for all of us to expand our thinking, our understanding of what it means to be and work towards an anti-racist organization, and then how together as a sector we can build off of those individual organizational learnings and really move the sector just that much further along our objective of really being an anti-racist sector and fully embracing that. So I really hope that we have some good discussion today. I know that it will be coming from a place of humility and openness, and invite all of you participants as well to come with us with your questions, and we'll do our best to answer. So having said that, I'm going to pass it over to Jane from Bella, from the Jane Goodall organization, and ask Bella, please, if you want to start us off and share with us what the processes look like for the Jane Goodall Institute and some of the learnings that have you been able to draw.
Thank you, Odette. Can you hear me? Just want to make sure my mic is on. So thank you for this opportunity to share, and for OCIC for putting together, and as well as Cooperation Canada for putting together this platform, really. For the Jane Goodall Institute of Canada, we are considered a small, medium-sized organization. So similar to some of the findings that have come out of the report, we definitely fall into the camp of having limited resources and not having dedicated resources to tackle specific anti-racism practices or policies, or create different protocols. So for us, maybe I can just spend a minute just talking about our journey through this. And we're absolutely at the very beginning of the journey, I would say. We're learning from everywhere that we can get resources from. So again, just appreciate this kind of this community to share, and for us to learn from you as well. The Jane Goodall Institute of Canada, we've been actually embarking on a strategic plan ourselves, which is so happened to coincide with this whole process. So back in, I think ourselves, like many others here, back in last year, 2000, when there, just through the news, media's events happening in the States as well as in Canada, where it was no longer, not that it ever was, but it was, it certainly was more in our consciousness of it's not good enough to just have kind of implicit things like, well, we're going to try to be non-discriminatory, we're going to try to be good partners, but without being very explicit about how we actually tackle anti-racism that's systemic in our organization as well as in our society. So we started internally some inward looking with across departments to do some initial learning ourselves, and we each department took a lead in organizing workshops around themes like systemic racism, implicit biases, white privilege, our place, as an organization working in this space, and that actually was before we learned about the anti-racism framework from from Cooperation Canada. So when that came about, it just seemed really aligned to some of our initial internal reflections already. And we did get organizational buy-in to sign on to the framework. And I would say that's probably in many ways, that's the easy part, is to sign on, because I think there was wide recognition both within the staff and leadership that it is something long overdue. So as our internal conversations, we didn't come across any sort of resistance or questioning why we should do this. But despite the buy-in, and actually we had a board training in the first quarter of in the spring of 2021, just after we signed on to the framework. And so the board was also brought into the discussion as well. But what we found when we completed the survey, the baseline survey, was that there's just so much that we're not doing. And so for us, the survey was a great tool just to highlight what are some of the things that would be good practice, and not just in a very generic way, because as you know, the questions drill down very specific operational and communication and programming aspects of it. So that was really helpful. We found that we are not hitting the bar on a lot of those questions. And that's what we also kind of come to realize, that although we've been talking about it a lot as a staff, so the anti-racism work, it's on all of our radars, it's on everyone's radar, but on nobody's plate. We don't have, we're so small that we don't even have a dedicated HR person, let alone to deal with anti-racism specific issues, but just our finance and admin staff kind of take on some of the HR work. People leadership within the organization take on some of the HR work, so it's very piecemeal. So I think that is a lesson, or not just a lesson, but something that a challenge for small organization is how do you balance the resource versus the work that needs to be done. So in terms of, I'll just quickly wrap up because I want to give my other panelists a chance to obviously share their thoughts as well. So maybe I'll just end on that. Where we're at right now is we're looking at all the questions from baseline. We're comparing to the sector and looking at prioritizing based on, let's say, the percentage of sectors that answered yes to certain questions where we've answered no. And so we kind of have different threshold of low, medium, and high priority. It's not a perfect criteria to decide on what to do first, but we felt at least, to be better aligned to what our other colleagues might be doing. And so we kind of narrowed down some indicators that we're currently as a team looking at what's feasible for us to tackle in terms of either updating or creating policies that could then address those questions specifically in our current fiscal year, recognizing also that it's going to take multiple fiscal years to do everything. And then the other thing I'll just quickly mention is we've, at the same time, have embarked on an organization evaluation done by an Indigenous youth-led organization called Assembly of Seven Generations. And they do organizational evaluation assessments for those that are working with Indigenous population. So it's in tandem. It's not answering specifically to the survey questions itself, but we're also looking at, through that organizational evaluation, highlighting where we need to improve and what things we should do more of. So maybe I'll stop there.
Bella, thank you so much. That was really, really, really interesting to hear about your process, and also with the limited resources that the Jane Goodall Institute has. sort of how you're going about trying to tackle the long list of things that as an organization you'd like to do. So that's just really, really, I'm sure for a lot of organizations, this has resonated, certainly has for me when I think about Equitas. So thank you very much.